I'd love to have something profound to say right now, but I got nothing at this point.
Yeah, I had a chance to sleep. And so I did some thinking, and I have one thing to lean on you. And, I'm going to give you a silver lining, but there's something I think that's different about this that they'll lean on to make it through this adversity.
I went to bed last night thinking it might be time to start talking about the NFL draft. But then I woke up this morning going, it's November 3rd. April is still a long ways away, and there's still a whole lot left to happen this season.
Hail to the Commanders. It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
Whether you stayed up last night to watch that ass whooping or not, you know how things went against the Seahawks. Commanders now sitting at 3-6, 38-14 loss to Seattle. You've got tons of injuries. The big one, obviously, that stands out, Jayden Daniels, dislocated elbow. You've got Marshon Lattimore, who might be out for the year with a torn ACL. And whether you like the way he's played or not this year, nobody roots for any injuries. Let's make that very clear. I don't want to see any of that nonsense in the comments today about good that he's hurt. Don't be that guy. Don't be that person. You've got Luke McCaffrey now with a broken collarbone. He's out for the rest of the season. But as David mentioned in the open, it's still the beginning of November, and we've watched this team before at 3-6 turn things around and win a division. It's not easy, and it's historic for a reason, but it's not out of the realm of possibility in the NFL. We're brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, I will start with this, guys, before anything. I can't believe that we're here. I know we're all going to have certainly different opinions and different perspectives about where this is and where the team is and what can happen. And listen, we know that in sports, anything is certainly possible. But right now, everything is stacked against this team. And I said before that if they lose this game to Seattle, you've got a trade deadline coming up in a couple of days, and we'll get to that. What is the mindset of the team going to be for the rest of the season? We'll have an idea with an understanding of what they do over the next couple of days. But I'll start with you, Anthony. As a player that's been part of wins, that's been part of losses, that's been part of good, that's been part of bad. From the outside, most people see doom and gloom, and it's tough when your starting quarterback now deals with his third injury of the season, a gruesome injury, which, by the way, I will not watch the replays of those. Please stop putting it on social media. Anthony, when you look at where this team is now, you've been in that locker room. You've experienced the good and bad, like I said before. I'm asking you to obviously guess because you're not in there at this point now, but what can the mindset be from a player's perspective with this team sitting at 3-6 now and all of these injuries mounting?
I mean, being real, there's one side of you where you're like, golly, what else, is coming? What else can happen? And that's truly how I feel from the outside looking in. But if I was sitting in that locker room, I just would look at my teammates and be like, my goodness, like what else can go on? Like, how can you stack another injury on top of this thing? That was definitely a gut punch. See, I could see how it could take the air out of the stadium, could take the air out of an organization, it could take the air out of a fan base. I mean, I woke up to the messages in different group chats that's going off, and I get it. I totally get it. And from the flip side, you still have a work job to do. You still have work to do. You still have to go out there and put something together. But the one thing is that through adversity, you got to come back together and you got to grind and you got to come back and push each other up. And that's what Dan Quinn preaches. He preaches a brotherhood. On my sign, it says brotherhood over adversity. And this is probably the most adversity that this team is ever going to have. One of the biggest things I thought about this AM was, yes, last year was probably more of a glimpse and a taste of just how good it can be. You understand? NFC Championship, 12 wins, ways winning just ball games, all different types of ways. Now you got to go through that pain where they have to break the bone and they got to reset it and it grows back stronger. That's what this moment is for me and for this team moving forward. I know everybody wants to be like, sell the team and trade players off. You'll figure out what to do with that. But the way this team is going to come back together from this, they have to stick together. They have to be able to stay close to build on that brotherhood culture to try to lift up out of this. That's the only way you can do it. So for me, you got to, lean on your teammate, lean on the guy next to you, show support for your new quarterback that's going to step up, show support for your coaching staff, and kind of insulate all the outside noise, because you're hearing a whole lot of BS, right? People want to call for jobs. This ain't the time for that. The folks inside that building, they need to lean on each other. That brotherhood is going to take them past this adversity, David. That's what I'm expecting to see from them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that in any kind of problem you have from an organizational level, you always have to attack it from a place of reality, right? And one of the key things about fixing a problem, an organizational problem, is understanding what the problem is. And to a certain extent, I do feel like this staff is a little bit lost in what that problem is. But there's nobody on the outside that knows this group better than the guys already in the building, that knows this coaching staff, that knows these players, that knows how they intertwine together and how they interconnect and all that stuff. So, the solution 1000% is not already in the building, because if it was, it would already be done, right? Like it would already be solved and we wouldn't be talking about this anymore. Dan Quinn acknowledged as much just last night. However, the ability to find the solution is in the building. I think what really needs to happen is that there needs to be some real honest assessments about what's going on. And I know they have Tell the Truth Monday after every Sunday and Tell the Truth Tuesday after every Monday game and all this kind of stuff. But telling the truth and being honest are not necessarily always the same thing. And I think what needs to happen is there needs to be a lot of filtering of confirmation biases within the coaching staff and within the player group, because not only are you seeing repeated issues with this team over and over again on a week-to-week basis, we're actually starting to see this thing compound, right? We saw Trey Amos yesterday overreact on a play action in a way that, truthfully, we haven't seen this season. Like, he's a rookie cornerback, and he's been arguably the most consistent defender on the field for the Washington Commanders. And last night, he was incredibly inconsistent. I know he's also dealing with the hip injury, and to what level that is, we'll find out during the week. But that was something that kind of stood out to me, because I'm like, oh, so this is a young fellow who's been playing with confidence, who's been making the smart read over the sexy read or trying to be the superhero. And now here we are in week 9, and suddenly he's trying to be the superhero, right? Like, he's crashing the box, trying to make a stop on a run and letting his guy run free down the field. And no disrespect to Cody White, okay, 60-yard touchdown, first touchdown in your NFL career, brother. I hope you mount that ball and display it proudly. But Trey Amos can cover a practice squad receiver who just got called up on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's not an ability thing. It's a mentality thing. It's a processing thing. That is where these problems are coming in. I'll tell you right now, guys, Nick, we praise this coaching staff for its diversity. Mm-hmm. I said this when the staff was put together, not as a true concern, but it's just kind of like a little footnote of like, hey, here's something to kind of keep in mind. And I'm now starting to wonder, it's all starting to come to me. Are there too many cooks in the kitchen? Are there too many people putting this thing together that have too much influence on what's going on? Because fusion is great, but some fusion is not supposed to be fused together. Like, I've never had like Turkish Italian food. I can't imagine it tastes very good, right? Like, not all fusion is great fusion.
Interesting. It's interesting you say that. I hadn't thought much about it, where it's kind of like there's too much. I get the insight. Everybody, give your input and say, hey, I like this look or I like this look. But eventually, at the end of the day, who's making that final call and saying, oh, well, hey, appreciate your insight. This is the one that's going to be the best decision that's moving forward. So that's interesting that you say that, man. Sorry, Nick, to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I mean, this is we all have a lot to say after what happened here over the last 24 hours. Look, I'm sitting here now, and I'm certainly a little calmer emotionally. Didn't have a voice last night, which is great, because I would have just yelled at the TV a lot louder. Rested the voice, needed it badly. Look, we got to be honest with ourselves and where this is. There's going to be different mindsets when you talk about like fusion and, different things put together. There's going to be a different mindset from the front office than there is the players on the field. There just is. This is evaluation mode the rest of the season. Now, evaluation mode can mean a lot of different things. Evaluation mode can mean certain players get more snaps, more opportunities, more chance to put things on film and show they either belong in this organization or another organization. That's from a player's perspective, certainly. Now, I don't mean to put it in a player's perspective as much as certainly Anthony can, but let's be honest with ourselves here. I think we know players aren't going to go out and just say, like, well, season's done. I hope we get a really good draft pick. It doesn't work that way. People think that it works that way sometimes, and it's like, that's not it. But front office is going to feel differently here, because now we're looking at Jayden Daniels, and It's his third injury of the season, and the team is sitting at 3-6. And you've got the Lions coming off, a pissed-off Lions team that just lost to the Vikings this weekend. That's going to be an issue. Then you've got Miami, and you've got a bye, and you've got all these different things coming up, and a back-ended schedule with nothing but division opponents. The question now becomes, are you going to give opportunities to younger players? Are you going to try to get Jayden Daniels back towards the end of the season in hopes that some miracle happens, depending on what the team's record is? Are you going to sell at the deadline in a couple of days and try to lock up more draft picks? Because remember, this time last year, this team was 7-2 and had 9 draft picks at the trade deadline. They're now 3-6, and they've got 6 draft picks. And if you're trying to rebuild the team, which was the initial goal of this 12-win season that they had last year was amazing. Nobody will trade it in. Nobody will say, I wish we didn't have it so we could have had the number 3 overall pick or whatever, and NFC Championship game. Nobody would want to ever trade that in for a full rebuild. But the reality is those 12 wins last year and a lot of matchups against a lot of really bad quarterbacks and a lot of luck. Football gods sometimes work with you. Sometimes they work against you. And it feels like all of the balance of the football universe is coming back at this team really hard and punching them in the face. The reality is here, that 12-win season last year masked a lot of deficiencies that this team had. And for anybody that thinks this was just going to turn around without any issues or any adversity whatsoever, you haven't been watching the NFL. This is now that adversity. At the beginning of the season, my big thing was, how does this team handle adversity? This is now what we're going to see. What does it look like the rest of the year? Do the players that are actually out there on the field play hard and show that they want to be here, they want to be a part of something moving forward? Does the culture still breed a play hard even if we're not winning type culture? Does everybody give up on the season? All of that stuff is now what's going to matter, with most likely Anthony Marcus Mariota at quarterback the rest of the season for this team. Maybe Jayden comes at the end of the year. I'm not a doctor. They haven't evaluated exactly what it's going to be in terms of timetable yet. But that was a gruesome injury, and we've got a long future ahead for Jayden Daniels as, fingers crossed, the franchise quarterback. You already kept him out there too long in a game that he should not have been on the field for. When you had a win probability in the second quarter for Seattle at 93%, the second quarter, this team has lost 3 straight games by 3 touchdowns or more. That is an abomination stretch for this team. So what do they do? How do they answer the rest of this season? And it's who's actually on the field, and what decisions does the organization make that aren't about this season as much as they are the seasons coming forward?
I think it definitely has to be playing younger players, right? You have to see some new people, and going way back to the Tell the Truth Mondays and the Tell the Truth Tuesdays is, what the hell are you going to do about it Wednesdays, right? You tell me that somebody's not making tackles or somebody's not covering somebody, but then they line back up in there. That doesn't mesh. You get what I'm saying? There's a point where you have to have that action and the accountability aligned with what you're calling out. You know what I mean? I can continue to tell my son, hey, man, stop doing that. But if I don't go over there and do something about his actions, it ain't going to change, right? And it ends up being on me at the end of the day. So what you're going to do about it Wednesday is what I need to see. It is going to get to that point where you have to have, quote unquote, lesser players on the field. But when the original folks aren't giving you that quality performance, you got to go ahead and test and see what you got in the garage, right? Let me see what type of tools we got in this toolbox. We bought 96 pieces. We only using 30 of them. Let's see what else we got. Let's see what these young guys can do. I really wanted to see more from Jalen Lane. He had plenty of opportunities, and he's kind of having the season that 11 was having last year. So, he's going to get caught up, but maybe it won't be this year. But I need him to get out there and get more reps. I want to see some Kane Medrano on defense. What's he looking like? I was excited about this guy. I don't know why he's not getting on the field, but I think they're going to have to make some tough decisions. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody is on the move here by Tuesday, David. But, yeah, they're going to have to make some decisions to really develop players and evaluate players based on what they do for the rest of these games.
Yeah, I mean, look, the mantra that you kind of saw take action last night with, the starters, just not even just Jayden, just the starters still being in that game as late as it was and entering that fourth quarter drive with 12 minutes left in the game, is the competition mantra, right? They always want to be competing. You're always looking to go out there and be physical and do all those things. And you get that. But there's another mantra that this team lives by that could have steered them in a little bit of a better direction. And to be clear, like, we're talking with a little bit of hindsight here, so we have that benefit. But that's why I try to look to, like, what processes do you already have in place that could have steered you away from the disaster that you ran into last night? And that is, keep the main thing, right? Because if you're trying to put good tape on in the fourth quarter in a blowout loss and all that kind of stuff, you're not trying to make the Seahawks game better, because that's not going to make the Seahawks game better. Chris Rodriguez scored a touchdown on the very next play and nobody celebrated. Why? Because that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was not about let's lower the deficit we're going to lose to the Seattle Seahawks by. What they were trying to do was put some good things together to get some good vibes coming out of that game for Detroit for the next week. Well, Detroit week starts on Tuesday, right? Like Monday they come in, tell the truth Monday, cut the tape, review the tape, get your grades, do all that kind of stuff. And then the staff moves on to a Tuesday. The players come back in Wednesday, and we get this thing rolling for Detroit. Don't worry about Detroit in the end of a blowout loss to the Seattle Seahawks. The other mantra that they need to hold by, and I don't know if this is a league-wide mantra, but something that Jason Light once kind of communicated to me, is operate based off what you know. Don't operate based off what you hope. And I look, and you can go across this roster, right? But the receiver room is really where you kind of had the biggest question marks entering the year with this team, and not operating off of that. You have Terry McLaurin, who's about to turn 30. Clearly, it's on your mind because it's impacting the way you're negotiating this contract extension, and you have to be aware that there's a possibility of him holding out. So your number one receiver may not be available for the season prep that you need him to be available for. Deebo Samuel is not a number one receiver. He's never been a number one receiver. That's okay. He's never been intended to be a number one receiver. So you have to know that. Noah Brown has an extensive injury history. You have to know that. Luke McCaffrey is a very inexperienced, raw wide receiver. You have to know that. But what it looks to me like with this wide receiver group specifically that they did is they operate off what they hope. We hope we can get this Terry deal done so that he can get into training camp and get ready in time. We hope Noah Brown can stay healthy. We hope Deebo Samuel can be an even better version of himself. We hope Luke McCaffrey can take this giant step in year 2, and we see where it's gotten, just that group specifically, and that's just that group where I haven't even gotten into the other group. So as this trade deadline comes across, as we get into the rest of November, that's what they need to operate off of. What do you know? Because if you know that there's a player in your building that's not part of your 2026 plan, act on it now. If you know there's a guy that is unproven but might have some potential in him, act on it now. And that's what we're talking about here. And when it comes time for Jayden Daniels to return, because, it could be 3 or 4 weeks that he might need to miss if it's a simple dislocation and there's not a lot of internal damage and all that kind of stuff. 4 weeks from now, make a decision based off what you know. Because if 2025 is over, you have no reason, in my opinion, to put Jayden back in peril and risk a 4th injury this season. It's kind of like, so I'm going to throw another cliche out there. When people tell you who they are, believe them. The 2025 NFL season has pretty loudly told the Washington Commanders, we're not effing with you this year. Believe it. See it in 2026. And that's not to say punt on the season in a sense. That's not to say take for draft picks. That's not none of that. That's not what I'm talking about, Anthony, because there are players in that locker room that need to go out there and compete. What I'm saying is, look at this through the lens of we have a serious problem. Who is going to be part of that solution? Let's go find that out right now. And that could lead to winning games. Absolutely could. And look, if it does, and we're sitting in April and they got the 17th overall pick instead of the 12th overall pick, and we're looking at a player at number 12 that we'd love to have, but because they beat the stinking Broncos in December in a nothing season, so be it. Okay, so be it. That's just how the chips fall. But that is how this team needs to approach the rest of the season.
Man, I'm with you on that 100% because I believe that winning is something that becomes contagious, right? And the difference between 12 and 17, and we'll leave that to the Twitter draft analysts because I know they're going to be out there. And I saw Emmanuel Forbes had a pick last night, and my wife was like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that was Emmanuel Forbes. He was picked by Ron Rivera. He's going to somehow make his way into Commanders Twitter later on because of his play, and so will Ron Rivera." But nonetheless, you gotta see what you get. You gotta see what you get from these other players. Put them out there on the field and let them run. I wouldn't even consider bringing Jayden back. Honestly, there's no point. All right, don't even play those games. But the difference between 12 and 17 means you won a couple more ball games. You started to figure something out. And frankly, you want to. I'd rather see it in regular season play, especially if those other teams are playing for something, right? Now you really got to step your game up. We really have to be on our A game because we get to ruin somebody's Christmas. We get to, take something from them, ruin their momentum because you really got to step your game up then. So there's a better chance to evaluate somebody then rather than in shorts and helmets and then in preseason play and then all the offseason and the hype where we're hearing good stuff. Go ahead and do it now, David. You damn right.
Yeah, this is that point now where it's looking towards next year. It doesn't mean again that you like the mindset of punting on a season is, I think, kind of close-minded, because you can put yourself in a position where you're not worried about winning games as much as player evaluation, with an understanding that that's leading to bigger success and better results down the road. Look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This team would not have signed Terry McLaurin to that deal had they won 6 or 7 games probably last year. It's a tough road to navigate when you come off a 12-win season with your first year with a whole new regime from top to bottom and everything's new. And then people are looking around going, this is the flavor of the month. This is the exciting team. This is the one that everybody loves. They are the trending team in the NFL. And everybody thinks it's all just going to be up from there. It's all just going to be trending up without any adversity whatsoever. Well, here's the adversity. This is now the real test for the front office, for the coaching staff, for the entire organization. Are you different than the previous regime? I certainly believe they are. I think most people, if you're really going to look at this logically and not emotionally, you're going to say, yeah, this is clearly different than anything that's been in this organization from the Dan Snyder era to now. I hate saying the reference to that name, but really that's what it is. Unfortunately, they looked like the Dan Snyder era jerseys last night and not the Super Bowl era jerseys last night when they were out there, but there's nothing you can change about it. Also, don't wear those the rest of the year. I don't think they planned on it. Don't do it. I think we just move on from that now, though they did look really good. That being said, you now have to look at what the offseason is going to be. What are your priorities? The front office is already thinking about next year at the beginning of the season anyway. They have to. But it's more of a focus now, especially after the trade deadline, and whatever they end up doing over the next couple of days, we'll figure that out. But what I do know with this team is that you cannot sit here and just say, let's go out there and throw things at the wall. You have to have a plan, even if it's not, we are trying to win as many games as possible. Coaching staff wants to win as many games. Players want to. Again, it's a mix between the front office and it's a mix between the coaching staff and where everybody is. But if you can get everybody on the same page, at least Dan Quinn, front office, hey, look, we're 3-6, a ton of injuries. Let's focus on some younger guys you want to see out on the field more, and we'll look at the offseason. And Dan Quinn, this is key. Dan Quinn also has to know that he's safe. We can talk about individual coordinators and things like that, but you can't truly evaluate this team moving forward if you don't let Dan Quinn know we want to fully evaluate with your job being safe. Bless you. Because if Dan Quinn thinks that he's got a coach for his job, David, then it's going to be a much different mindset than we are going to check everybody out that we have on this roster. And it's about building something for the long term. So he's also got to know that he's comfortable in a part of that future, because that's really going to be key.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the worst thing you can do is make a panic decision. Actually, I'm going to revise what I just said, because the worst thing you can do is do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always had this mantra, like the worst decision to make is no decision. You have to do something. Something's got to change. And you know, I'm going to get fans on my show, you know, this week and all this stuff that are more frustrated than I'm not out here just calling for heads to roll and all this other stuff. What I will call for is change. There has to be a change.
Yeah.
And where I think if you're Adam Peters and you're Dan Quinn, what you have to do, again, just be an honest broker. If you're not going to be a part of that positive change, then you're going to be the guy that changes. And listen, I don't care if that's a coordinator. I don't care if it's a position coach. I don't care if it's, you know, the guy that washes the pots and pans in the team kitchen. If you're not going to be a part of why this organization gets better, then you're going to be a different part of another organization, because you're not going to be here anymore. And that goes for when you're winning too. Like, that's not just when you're losing. That should just always be the mantra. If you know, the old cliche, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, et cetera, right? So that's got to be a big part of this. And I think that's where the crux of a lot of this comes in. But don't forget, like I understand this is a season, you know, a year-to-year league and a week-to-week league and all that stuff. But this is the same staff that helped take the Washington Commanders to the NFC Championship game last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, like, you know, people can get on a hot streak, people can catch lightning in a bottle and all that stuff. But Anthony, you know this more than anybody sitting here on this panel right now. It takes talent to catch lightning in a bottle. Like, you got to be on the beach to catch that lightning in that bottle. Like me, I'm nowhere near a beach. If you follow the athletic, you know, comparative here, I'm nowhere near the beach. I'm in the forest. And I don't got a bottle. I got a wooden oar. I'm not catching lightning ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to catch lightning in that bottle, you still got to be there to catch that lightning in that bottle. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the talent is there. I'm not even necessarily talking about the roster, especially with all the injuries. Tom Shad of Washington Post did a great thing. This team already has lost over 120 games to injuries. They lost 170, I think he said. I don't have the data in front of me anymore. I think he said they lost like 170 all of last year. So this team is going to more than double up the amount of games they've lost to injuries. And we're not even, you know, like I said, we're not even to Veterans Day yet. So that is a significant part of this. It's not a total excuse for this, because a lot of the things that we're seeing on the field are not just injury related. I'm going to get into that more on Locked On Commanders later today, but we do have to remember, like, there is talent here, right? Like, there is talent, there is ability here. What it is it's caught in a storm. You don't necessarily get out of the storm by just starting to throw people overboard. Like, you still need that dude to man that sail. You still, I'm just throwing cliches out all over the place today.
Yeah, man.
You need all these guys in place. You just, like I said, going back to the too many cooks in the kitchen, I think you maybe need to simplify the operation.
I can dig that. There's a book called The Goal, and I can't remember the name of the author, but it talks about like a factory and the processes that go through a factory, and you find this one point that has the everything kind of pigeonholes at this one spot, right? And there's generally that backup that slows some things down. That could be what you're talking about. Like, what are your systems that are going to be in place whenever this adversity hits, and how you're going to bounce back from it? And shoot, it may be a change in how you start the day. I know they love doing the fast paced, everybody rah, rah, rah. And that may not even be the message that you need. One of these books I was reading, it's Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. It talks about when the Spurs lost the game against the Heat in the finals, where they were just one win away from winning it all. They already had a daggum restaurant reserved for their celebratory dinner. They lost that game, but Pop still kept them together, and they still went out to dinner because they needed to be close to each other in that moment, and he changed his approach. So that could be something that DQ does. He seems to have a pretty good pulse on, handling the temperament of the team, but it's going to take some strong leadership right now to lift these young guys, to lift these folks that are probably, they're hurting physically, mentally, they're hurting, they're kind of broken right now. And they're looking for somebody to help, not necessarily motivate them, but to lay a hand on them and love them and hug them, essentially, like Coach Pop says. I think they need more of that right now. That'll get them through. But they're going to perform on Sunday against the Lions. They'll deal with that. But, man, right now, mentally, it's just probably a lot of guys that are just down the dumps that need to be lifted up.
Yeah, if you want to make a reference, a great culture, the Spurs culture in their prime under Greg Popovich, it's as good as any organization has certainly ever had. All right, we mentioned a little bit in terms of change. What players maybe deserve more opportunities moving forward for this team? I've got one that continues to just scream in everybody's face, give me more opportunity. That plus all the other stuff, all the other injuries we still got to sort through as this season goes on. It's Commander Squad.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashooh here. We've talked a lot about evaluation and where this is going to go the rest of the season. A lot of it we won't know till we actually see it on the field, till we see, the moves that are made over the next couple of days, all of these things. But there are certain players that are going to get opportunities here moving forward. And I will scream this guy's name because I now have a voice again. Please, more carries for Chris Rodriguez the rest of the season. He averaged 5.4 yards a carry and had that touchdown against Seattle. But the bigger thing for me here is if Jayden Daniels, and at this point probably shouldn't come back this year. If we're being honest, I'm not a doctor, but we saw the injury. And if this team continues to lose games, there's no point in bringing Jayden Daniels back this season. But that also means other players. Luke McCaffrey, done for the year with a broken collarbone. We don't know what Terry McLaurin's status is and what it's going to be as the season continues as well. Does he miss another week and then they reevaluate? Do they decide there's just no more and he's not there? you may just have to run the ball more with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback. And if that's the case, it has to be more than 12 carries for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and 12 carries for Chris Rodriguez. You may have to be heavy on the run game. And I get it. You're down big in a game. You're going to have to throw the football. We've seen that the last 3 weeks. They've faced big deficits. They've lost by at least 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games. It's been a historically bad stretch for this team. But this is your chance to at least see and really kind of look at this season as what last year was supposed to be. Let's be honest. Last year was supposed to be all the evaluations with a rookie quarterback and a new head coach and a new front office. And they went, oh my God, the football gods love us. They're blessing us, bestowing 12 wins on us and bad quarterbacks and the ball bouncing our way. Well, now it's not. Now everything is evened down a little bit. This is your opportunity to really see what you have down the depth chart. Chris Rodriguez, to me, David, is the guy that I would love to see so much more of the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm really glad, Nick, that you've taken on like this mission for Chris Rodriguez Jr. because Locked On Commanders regulars know this already, but like it's been like 2 years for me. Like I've just been talking about how this team, like Chris Rodriguez, needs to get the opportunity to prove himself. I got to talk to Chris in the locker room yesterday. It wasn't, a formal interview, nothing like super off the record or anything like that. But I just really wanted to do is just understand the human struggle of everything going on, is go over to him and just make sure that he understood that, his running performance was noticed, right? His effective running last night was noticed. Mm-hmm. His effective ability to help get the offense rolling was noticed, even though it did. And that's why I started off with. I said, look, brother, I know it didn't come the way you wanted to, but like, people need to understand that like when you do a good individual job, that still matters. It doesn't matter more than everything else, but it still matters. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad to hear you take up that mantle. I'm going to go offense because I feel like Anthony would want to go defense. I don't know why. You're an offensive guy, Anthony, so I feel like you would want to go defense. So I'm going to leave you the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm just going to be very honest about something we all know. Zach Ertz is not the tight end of the future for the Washington Commanders, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, I know there was a 41-year-old tight end that played this weekend. Like, fantastic, but that was very much out of desperation for that team. I can't remember who it was anymore. But Zach Ertz is not the tight end of the future for this team. John Bates is a very solid tight end. He is not a number 1. Ben Sinnott right now is a number 3. It's time to find out if Ben Sinnott's got number 1 potential in him. Because, again, you have to go out there this next offseason when we get to that point and operate off of what you know. And right now, it's obvious in the building that the Commanders know that Ben Sinnott is not a starting tight end from their practice performances, work, studying, meetings, whatever it is that they're not seeing in Ben Sinnott to put him out there as a feature part of this offense. Got it. But sometimes, damn it, people are gamers and they're not necessarily preparers. So you got to go out there, put him in the fire. Let's put him out there in the fire. Let's give him that wide tight end role, and let's find out what this kid is made of, because then you can go into the offseason fully understanding who Ben Sinnott is on the practice field, in the meeting rooms, and on the field. I talk about this with Taylor Heineke all the time. Taylor Heineke was not a practice guy. Taylor Heineke, truthfully, was not even a preparer guy, okay? He was not a gym rat. But you know what he was? He was a gamer, and he was a gamer in the most wild ways you could ever imagine. Find out who Ben Sinnott is when the Bullets are live so that you can make better decisions this offseason on that room as a whole.
Man, you had me. I was ready for the offense. Now you like go defense, and if I had to go defense, it would be Kane Medrano, because I was big on his speed, athleticism, the former safety, working his way into linebacker, played all types of football. Just made a lot of sense to be able to be an understudy to Bobby Wagner. You know what I mean? Hell, I saw Cooper Kupp on the sideline coaching up his young wide receivers. Maybe Bobby is in that same type of a mold where he can coach up this young fella. Just see him go out there and run around. And frankly, the message to any of these young cats: go out there, play fast, and play free. You don't worry about the X's and O's. Don't worry about you being in the wrong spot. Also, don't check social media when you're done. I did it one time, and oh my gosh, I was like, damn, I thought y'all loved me. But don't check social media. But go out there, play fast, play free. But if I was going back on the offensive side, it would be Ja'Cory Brooks. I want to see somebody else at the wide receiver position. He was making some plays late in late in preseason, making some noise in training camp. 6'3", you need that height, need somebody that's young. Hell, I think people are probably afraid if they activate him, then they can't take him back off. But I think these key reps are more important. See what you got. I would probably shut Terry down. Shut him down too. Let's get all the young people out there, because frankly, the damn quad, will be a quad in December. It'll be annoying in February. It could be annoying in April, right? Tell them to go and sit down. Just sit down, see a soft tissue specialist, get that thing taken care of, come back fully healthy, get a full off season, get a full training camp. But yeah, I want to see Ja'Cory Brooks and Kane Medrano for me, Nick.
I'm glad you said that.
Not to kick a dead horse here, guys. Terry McLaurin ain't getting younger.
Hey,
you know what? And that's it's
I'm
true.
looking at all the injuries. When you look at all the injuries, I thought I was on the practice squad list with as many injuries as they are. But I mean, most of the guys 29, 30, 29. You got a 24, a 27, a 25, a 27, a 31. Then you add in, Jaden's young and Luke's young. But I mean, all of them are getting older. So it's like you're forced to get younger, right? That has to be one of your initial things. When you get younger, you're going to obviously potentially take a step back obviously in experience, but then maybe in the skills. But you need to increase your athleticism to compete with these new players in this league. Tight ends are absolute difference makers right now. And you got to have players that can cover that. You got to have those tweeners in between the linebacker safety. Like I can't even say the young fella's name. Imawanyu, the guy with the E. It's the linebacker safety for Seattle. They were talking about his numbers. Maybe Medrano can fit in that type of a role and be a disruptor for the defense. But, yeah, they're going to have to really, just start look at anything, turn over all the rocks and see what you got.
Look, people are maybe not going to like this analogy I'm about to make, but I'm going to make it because I think this is how you have to be realistic. You have to look at how the Wizards are building their team right now, and it's all about throwing all these young guys out there on the court and seeing what sticks. They've got 12 guys 24 or younger on that team. This is the oldest team in the NFL. We all know that. One of the biggest concerns was how does the health of this old roster make it through an NFL season? It's been about as bad as it could possibly be. Now, granted, young guys, old guys, everybody's just gotten hurt. This is the NFL. Sometimes this happens. But they don't have the depth to just do, like I said, right? They don't have the depth to be the next man up mentality, and that's it, and expect to just keep winning. The 49ers are a more established team, and they've been able to get through a lot of it because they've been built longer. It's been an extended period of time. That front office has added young talent and guys you think could be the next man up and all of that. Right now, it has to be about these names that we've mentioned and anybody else, and that's it. The decisions the Commanders make now, today, tomorrow, the next day, the next month, have to be about what that does to affect next offseason and next year. It's just that simple. Keep in mind, too, and again, I know we're in November and we want to still look ahead, the football and all that, but the reality of it is it's got to be bigger picture with this team the rest of the way. What happens in every single game is going to be about how this affects this team moving forward. Hey, did Chris Rodriguez get 18 carries for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns? Maybe it's time he continues to be a part of this team, not just this year, but next year. Or again, go down all the names that we have. On top of that, this has to be about a lot of big contracts that are like, you think the Terry McLaurin thing was an issue? Guess what? You got a lot more guys that have big deals that are potentially coming up moving forward. And you have to decide whether Frankie Louvu is a part of this future. Well, like he's going to be somebody whose contract is like, those are the types of things that you have to think about if you're this team. Do you have the next man up where you don't have to give a big contract to somebody that you don't think is going to be able to live out that entire contract as in his time in DC, and it's better off having somebody younger and cheaper come up, which a lot of organizations do. You make the financial sacrifices because you've addressed needs and found some of that younger talent to move forward, and you're able to do something with that. That's what they've got to figure out the rest of this year, plain and simple. So listen, this is not an easy spot for this team to be in at all. We still have certainly some injuries and where it could be. And David's obviously been around the team, so I want to kind of see what he's heard around, over again, a lot more is certainly still going to be there, but this is all about trade deadline coming up and the future for this team, whether it's young guys individually or it's going to be what the offseason is. A lot more to still get to here on Commander Squad. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory, honest leads, times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer there. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can help you save on hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, so listen, I think now we've certainly established that this team needs to think more about the future than anything else. But I do want to, at least, because you were around the team last night, David, and we've looked more at what happened on the field and all of the other things and reports. I want to kind of give the floor to you for a minute, because you talked to some of these players, and you obviously, you were there with Dan Quinn talking and all this. And I don't know how much you know or how much you can give, obviously, as we're in this point, and we don't want to necessarily speculate on injuries other than what's certainly out there. But let's just look at big picture from Jayden Daniels or Terry McLaurin or some of these big injuries that aren't decided as season-ending injuries. If you even want to just give a gut feeling, that's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter to me, but like, there's a lot of things that are still up in the air. What are you kind of hearing around the team in terms of the direction that this could go, just from a personnel perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of conversation about if you can get a win against Seattle, right? That puts you in a position. It's a good team. If you can show some good things, obviously, if you won the game, you did enough good things to come out with the victory against a very solid team, and that maybe can take some momentum into Detroit. And again, you go back to that fourth quarter, like that's what they were trying to build, is momentum towards Detroit, right? So obviously, that's in the forefront of people's minds. Because then you have Miami coming up, and there's a possibility there that you're 6-5 going into the bye, and with the schedule coming up, and things can take a better turn. At this point in time, like, again, the season's not over. The NFL is a crazy league. Things happen all the time. Other people are going to suffer injuries, and teams are, we've seen teams start 8-0 and finish 8-8 back when they're 16 games, things like that, right? So a lot of things can happen. So that's why we're talking about, like, when you have the eye on the future, you also aren't, you're telling guys, go out there and fight your tails off and go get that win. And they're going to go out there and fight their tails off to go try to beat the Detroit Lions next week, just the same. By the way, they wear the Super Bowl era throwbacks against the Broncos and against the Cowboys. You're going to see them 2 more times this season, right. Against 2 very good teams as well. So I want to. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. There's this kind of, and it's actually funny that you bring this up, because like Nikki Javala of The Athletic actually just dropped this morning a really great story, giving a lot of player perspectives on being traded, on like kind of what happens behind the scenes, what went through their mind when they found out, like, you know what I mean? Things like that. And one of them that kind of hit the most was Von Miller, kind of recapping his story from when he got traded from the Denver Broncos to the Los Angeles Rams. Like, he's down in the training room, no clue that he's about to be traded. Like, they're like, hey, you need to go upstairs and talk to so-and-so. And he's like, I'm getting treatment. Tell him to come down here. I'm Von Miller. And they're like, nah, bro, you need to go upstairs. And he says, like, in that moment, he was like, oh man, like, this is real. Mm-hmm. I think that these players are kind of going through those moments right now. And when you get to the locker room last night, it was like, through all the ups and downs of this season, you still have this belief within yourself. And I agree with what Dan Quinn said last night. This is not a culture problem. I don't believe it's a culture problem. I think the problem is elsewhere. But last night, when you see Jayden laying on the floor and you see him walking off the field, and they all come in, they all go see him and check on him. Like, again, I mean, Chris Rodriguez scores that touchdown. And even Chris, who, as much as we have wanted him to get touches, he's wanted to get touches. He can't even celebrate his own touchdown because of the atmosphere around the team. I feel it felt heavy. I don't know if that makes sense. I know Anthony is going to make sense to you. It felt heavy. And I hate losing locker rooms. I've never not wanted to be in a locker room more than the one that I was in last night. You know what I mean? And the unfortunate part is we do have a job to do. I made sure to do it to the best integrity I could in the way that I want to represent myself. And some people may not like that, and that's okay. I had a lot of candid conversations with players, and those are conversations not meant for public. But what I will share is the focus in that moment was not on what are we going to do on Tuesday? The focus in that moment, or Monday, but the focus on that moment was, what can we do for Jayden? And how can we make sure that he understands that he has a support system, not just his mother, his father, his family. You know, he has a support system of brothers around him. And it was just a very real moment. You know what I mean? It was a very real moment. And it really showed how important Jayden Daniels is to this team. And it also kind of showed the fragility of this team. You know what I mean? Like, and the emotions were everywhere. There was just sincere, like Marcus Mariota talking about him like a little brother. Like, the first concern is that the kid is okay. Like, that really kind of stuck in my head, because this is Marcus Mariota, like your brothers, your teammates. But like, that's Marcus Mariota taking that protective, kind of stance on it. And you go back to that Atlanta overtime game last year, and Jayden is gassed. Like, he's just out of juice. You know what I mean? Like, part of him probably just wants that game to be over. And Marcus Mariota comes over. He's like, hey, no, like, get off the knee, stand up, stand tall. You know what I mean? And like, this is understanding who you are. And then you have another player, and I'm going to keep it private, but you have another player who is livid. I mean, just like, if they could have punched me in the face to make themselves feel better, they probably would have done it. And I probably would have been okay with it as long as I didn't have to go to the hospital. Don't break my jaw. And not like livid like the fans are, not like livid like, why was he out there? Like, just the anger of the season. But then also understanding there's a cold side to this business, right? There are players all over the league that get injured. They leave the organization, they go on IR, they leave the organization, and they never hear from the team again. They never hear from a GM. They never hear from a coach. They may never hear from a teammate. And like, that potential realization of these people who you thought cared about you, who told you they cared about you, really don't care about you. That hurts. You know what I mean? Like, humans are pack animals. We're pack animals by nature. Mm-hmm. So when you think you have a pack and you find out very real that pack doesn't exist, that's huge. And so for that player, and that player's not saying that Jayden doesn't have a pack, but for that player, it took him back to that experience. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? To the point where, like, while we're talking, he can't even look me in the eye. And like, he's being very real and very raw. And I appreciate that. And I just, like, truthfully, I just want to hug him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to hug him. I'm just like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, and then you have like Bobby, Bobby was on the record. So like, he's talking about like, this isn't the time to tell Jayden, hey, you're going to be okay. Hey, just do your rehab. Hey, we got it from here, 5. No, this is the time to just pray. You know what I mean? And Bobby's a very faith-driven person. Like, this is the time to pray. This is the time to just be in the moment, allow it to suck, allow it to be emotional, allow it to be about the injury, and then get back to work the next day. And I think, and I kind of wish, like, I know this team's going to be on Hard Knocks, but like, I kind of wish this was something that people could see, for themselves, because as terrible of a moment as it is, and as terrible of an environment as it was, and like I said, as much as I wanted to get out of their way, because that's really what it is, I wanted to get out of their way to allow them to do what they need to do as a group. It's a great reminder of the humanity of it all. And the more you remember the humanity of what's happening within this organization, like, listen, I'm not going to call out the organization by name, but there was an organization that put up a story on the injury. It's got to happen. You got to write about it. You got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. But what you don't have to do is put up a picture of the man's arm mangled on the field. Mm-hmm. And it happened. And look, nobody's perfect. Nobody should be expected to be perfect. People make mistakes. Fortunately, it was seen, it was caught, it was communicated, it was corrected. But it's like, but that's where we go sometimes, right? Like, we forget the humanity of what we're talking about because it's on the TV screen, or it's behind a helmet and a logo, or it's on my favorite TV show, or, you just buy a ticket, you watch it from a distance, and then you leave and you go home to your normal life. These are people. You know what I mean? Like, Jayden's got a mom. Jayden's got family. He's got a father. He might have a girlfriend. I don't know. Like, Bobby Wagner's got family. Bobby Wagner's got friends. Like, and look, like, everybody watches this game differently. Some people don't care about that kind of stuff. Some people are like, whatever, bro. Like, do your job. That's not my job to care about your feelings. Okay, I got you. But when that player turns down your autograph request, remember, it's not that player's job to worry about your feelings either, is what I would say. So it's just, man, it's like I said, there's a lot there, man. But I mean, hopefully that kind of also illustrates like everything that's going on around this team right now. It's a lot. And it's incredibly heavy. We all want it to get corrected. We all want it to go better. But truthfully, nobody more than the guys in that locker room. Like before this game, there was a player I talked to, and again, it's a candid moment, but like this is a quote. We're having a conversation, not even about the game. And in the moment, he goes, bro, we got to get a win, man. And it's like, and in that moment, like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? Like, they feel it. And this team needs a win, bro. Like, this team needs a win in the biggest way. I want to give a lot of props to the fans that stayed at Northwest Stadium throughout that entire game. Not to dog the ones that didn't, but I want to give props to the ones who stayed and cheered them off the field and supported them all the way through that ass kicking. Because I'll tell any fan that'll listen, your negativity will never fix anything. Like, honestly, your negativity will never fix anything. No coach is ever going to read your tweet, read your comment, read your whatever, and be like, oh, man, I don't know, cheesesteak lover 24/7. That's a good point. We should run more inside zone. That's never going to happen. But what they will see is your support, and they will feel your support. And that's where you get the us against the world mentality. I was talking to a European sports fan about this. This is something that stood out to me living in Europe. I grew up on European football, NFL Europe, World League football. It's American football, but it's played in Europe. That's where I started going to football games with my dad as a kid. And what I remember as a kid is Frankfurt Galaxy, London Monarchs. That was the rivalry. And there were games where the Frankfurt Galaxy put it on the Monarchs. But there were games where the Monarchs put it on the Galaxy. And no matter what, at the end of the game, even when the Monarchs blew out the Galaxy, every single fan in that stadium is standing together and saying, we are the champions. This is not a playoff game. This is not a championship game. Anyway. This is a regular season game, and you might just got your ass kicked. They're all saying, we are the champions, applauding the Galaxy as they leave the field. We go to America. We go back home to America. My dad takes me to my first NFL game. Broncos, Buccaneers. The Buccaneers stomp the Broncos. And I'm hearing boos, and fans are leaving. And I remember, even as a kid, I was like, what is happening right now? Like, and then like we're walking out of the stadium, it's just like miserable. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, this is supposed to be a joyous. I think as a society, we forget the humanity behind what we're seeing, and we forget that we have a role within that humanity, because these players, especially these young players, they see you. They see you. They see you. Like they read your stuff. They see you. Like you got 30 followers on Twitter. They still might see you. So when they see you, all I would say is make sure they're seeing you in a way you want to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we talk about keyboard warriors. Like, would you say it to his face? Like, if you're going to type this on Twitter about Von Miller, would you say it to his face? If you wouldn't say it to his face, why would you say it on Twitter? You can put it however you want to. The thing that I always operate off, guys, and I'm sorry, but like the way I do my show, and I hope that my listeners and we do this here, I believe. Like, I don't think Nick, Anthony, you say anything that you wouldn't say to these guys to their faces. And when I talk on my show, when I tweet, when I write, I make sure what is on that page, what is on that screen, what is on that mic is something that I will say to that person, those people in the locker room, if they want me to, if they bring it up, or if the conversation just opens up. I will say exactly what I say in public in that locker room. And I think if we all did that, it would be a little bit easier to ride through these roller coasters together. And you'd be amazed on how much that outside, like, those can become wins. Like I said, this team needs a win, bro. Like, this team just needs a win. If that stadium, and again, I'm not dogging anybody to make their own personal decision. It's your decision. But if that stadium is full last night at the end of that game, and there's just a sea of burgundy and gold telling those guys, we got you. We'll see you next week. We got you. That can benefit the team. That can actually help. But your boos, bro, I saw a fan talking trash. Marshon Lattimore is walking off the field with a towel over his head, probably with a torn ACL. And I saw a fan get up out of his seat, walk down to the tunnel railing. I don't know what he said. But what I do know, just from 43 years of living and reading body language, is that man turned around after what he said to Marshon, and he looked real proud about himself. And the people sitting in the seats where he was standing there saying whatever he said to Marshon were looking at him like he was crazy. And I'm like, this man literally just went up to this NFL player who probably just tore his ACL, is probably walking off this field with his brothers for the last time, and said some crazy stuff. Hey, at least you said it, I guess, face to face. I don't know. You're like 10, 12 feet ahead above him with a guardrail. Like, you know, you're not really face to face. But I guess at least, but I'll tell you right now, brother, you say that to Marshon Lattimore in a public space with no cameras, you ain't gonna say it again. You know what I mean? But that to me, I was like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And that's only one person, but like, what have we gotten to where we feel like that's okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. That's a lot of preaching, but that's
good.
where we go with it.
Nah, you good.
No.
I remember I was locker mates with Reed Dowdy, one of the nicest, purest human beings. I mean, donate kidney to his kid, like all type of stuff. And people would tweet, I hope you have a career-ending injury type stuff. And it's like, damn, dude. I mean, he missed a tackle. I understand the frustration, but it doesn't have to go that far. I was telling Nick before we came on here, there was a big difference between this situation and what people were trying to compare things to. And I think the difference is the timing of when it happens. One happens in the playoffs, and just like David says, you're injured, you have your surgery, and then you go home and you rehab. Everybody leaves. The difference is now is that it happens in the middle of the season. And whereas it's going to be on Hard Knocks, I want to see Jayden on Hard Knocks with his teammates. I want to see him in that same mold around those people because he has to have that support right now. Bobby's 100% correct. It is the time to pray and to say, send positive healing energy to Jayden and send the same positive healing energy to Regina and everybody around him to kind of insulate him from the negativity that's out there. But imagine you got a kid learning how to ride a bike and the dad's with him. He falls as the mom pulls up and is honking and waving because she's excited. But then the parents start bickering as to why the kid fell. Just help the kid, right? Help the kid up. Make sure he's okay. That's the main focus right here. Where the previous guy had to leave and it was off season, he's here. Jayden's going to be with his team. And I think that's the big point. For the players to be there for him, for the front office to be behind him, Nick, and just to make sure that you insulate this guy and show him some love because he'll be back and it'll help grow this team year 3 and beyond.
Yeah, listen, this is a season that's gone awry in a million different ways, and there's a lot of emotion from a lot of people in and out of the organization across the board. We'll wrap this thing up next. It's Commander Squad. Of course, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so I think, listen, at this point, we've all kind of, sat back, taken a breath, and looked at what happened over the last 4 games, the last 4 weeks, certainly last night. Last night really felt like that was the over-the-cliff moment where this team is now going to be looking at things very differently moving forward. And I think you brought up a good point earlier, David. You said a lot of great things, and you're in there talking to the players, and I think it's important that you kind of give that message out from where they're going. I think that's that's a unique perspective that you bring. I mean, I've spent plenty of times in locker rooms, but the reality is I have not been on a beat of a team. I have covered teams from this perspective, TV and radio, and talking to people like you that have that perspective. I think it's important everybody gets all those different things. I think the one thing about this show is that everybody actually does care about this team, and everybody is pissed off about this season. And I think from a fan's perspective, somebody wants to say, well, they're making excuses on this show, or you're just not putting blame. Everybody wants to find a scapegoat or a place to take that anger for this season and direct it at somebody specifically. The reality is there's not one person or not one thing that is the problem with this season. It's a collection of everything. It's a collection of injuries. It's a collection of poor play defensively. It's a collection of guys missing time in camp to start the season off where the offense hasn't been able to find a rhythm. And then your quarterback's hurt with multiple injuries, and your star wide receiver barely played this year, and the offensive line's been shuffled, and the defense can't make tackles. We can list all of those things. But right now, This fan base is coming off of a 12-win season and an NFC championship game, and the feeling of something new, the feeling of something different, the feeling of something being better. So to go back to this 3-6 moment and watch not just losses in prime time, but blowout ass kickings from a fan's perspective, there's no question that all of that emotion is bubbling up, and it's where do I put the blame? The reality is it's a lot of different things. But I will say this. I've said it before. I will continue to say it, that in no way am I happy, or is anybody happy with the way this season's gone. But in no way am I going to sit here and say same old team, same old organization. It's not, but it feels like it in the moment because we're used to this, because we've seen this so many times in the past. It's not the same. But it's really important now for this front office, for this coaching staff, and this team the rest of the way now, this offseason, next year, everything moving forward, to get better and to improve and to show that things aren't where they were before. Because we can say it, and right now you can give the benefit of the doubt, and let's not forget, this is the same team this time last year. It's not the same team, but same organization that was 7-2 at the trade deadline, won 12 games, went to an NFC championship game. So it's in there, right? Like, we know where the ceiling can be, and we know what the front office can do in terms of building a roster. But now is a pivotal moment. It's a pivotal moment to prove to the fan base that you're not the same. It's a pivotal moment to prove to the NFL that you're not the same. And it's a pivotal moment for them all to prove to themselves that this thing is going to, whether it's turning around now or turning around next season with the decisions that they make and the performances you get from guys that are still going to be on the field, all that has to be done. And all that has to be put out there in the open for everybody to say, okay, this sucks, but when the dust settles, they're still moving in the right direction. We forget this is a rebuilding team. Adam Peters and that front office and that coaching staff came in with nothing. This thing was, I mean, they needed to completely flip this thing around. And in the first year, they won 12 games. Let's not forget that, while at the same time, it's cool to be angry about this season. I'm pissed off. I was in a miserable mood all morning. I love you guys. I love doing the show with you. I didn't want to do this show because I'm pissed off about what happened, and I hate seeing this, and I've seen it time and time again. But I in no way think that this team is going in the same direction that it's been there before. I never thought there'd even be an opportunity to have hope for this organization. I still have it, despite the way this season looks. And there is blame to go around, and everybody that has been at fault deserves that blame. But there needs to be an understanding that this is that moment moving forward where this organization can prove what I definitely believe, that this is not the same organization of the past. Better ownership all the way down. The fish rots at the head. It is a different head at the top of this organization now, but they've got to prove it to everybody else so it doesn't feel like same old, Anthony.
Man, this is one of them ones I think you send a common message, right? Send a common message, make it public. I mean, I know everything has always been tight-lipped, right? But it's just say, let them know as a head coach, right? A lot of times the regions get behind head coaches like that's my head coach as a region, my team's head coach and whatnot. I think it'd be fine to be like, hey, man, we're behind Jayden. We still want to have a successful season. Calm the nerves, let everybody know, hey, we're still in this thing for the long haul, and I'm with you. It's always going to be a positive, logical spin on it from me, just because I know I've come from where the odds have not looked good, but it never ends when you're at the bottom. So we'll end up building back stronger as a unit, stronger as a team, and ideally, they get some W's and carried into 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, I think something that's important to remember too is just this is the life of being a sports fan. Every single season, there is a fan base that's disappointed. There's a fan base that's angry. And there's a fan base that's through the roof because look at our team go. And every year, those groups change. I was looking at the Toronto Blue Jays. I know they just lost the World Series. But, man, if you go back to some of the tweets about the Toronto Blue Jays back in April and May, like there was a tweet from a Blue Jays fan in May that said the Blue Jays are officially one game below 500 or only one game below 500. The parade will be in this place in Toronto tomorrow afternoon to go celebrate. Like that's how down the Blue Jays fan base was, partway through the season. And then that team ends up playing in the World Series. And I know they lost the World Series, but to go from that to where your fans are mockingly celebrating you almost being 500 to being, in the title fight, that's a huge shift. So it can happen that quickly. It can also happen the other way that quickly. Again, every team you see go 8-0 and then finish 8-8, you can see a team start 0-8 and go and finish 8-8. And then the next season, they're Super Bowl contenders, right? So this it's a fickle business. Injuries matter, scheme matters. Every decision is weighed. even heavier the longer you go into it, all those things. But man, if you're not going to drive yourself crazy on this ride, you gotta take it as it comes, and you got to be able to roll with the punches. Because there's a lot of people out there, just lives are ruined, days are ruined because of it.
Yeah.
But the best thing I can tell you, like I said, from being on ground, the best thing I can tell you is ain't nobody inside that building giving up. Ain't nobody inside that building punting on nothing. And even DQ, even in the midst of everything, he even took you probably missed it if you didn't really pay attention to it, but he even took a second to thank the fans for all the energy they brought at the beginning of that game. Because Commanders fans came in that building last night ready to go. And obviously it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, but I hope, Detroit in a few days, like I hope Commanders fans, those of you who got tickets, bring that same energy because they need it.
Yep. Yeah, they do. And listen, we'll be back later this week. We'll look ahead to Detroit. We'll look ahead to the rest of the season. The show continues, and it'll be all about evaluation. And also, we'll have an idea what this team does at the trade deadline, which, of course, is coming up on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Guys, great show. Everybody take a deep breath. Still got a lot of season left. We'll just see what this team does in terms of that approach moving forward. Make sure you're subscribing to Locked On Commanders and the entire channel here on YouTube. And, wherever you get your podcast, do all that. Give us a follow on the socials. We'll talk to you later this week.